So a little bit about me. I think I've seen you guys in other sessions already. But quickly, my name is Ben Curry. I am legitimately a beach bum. Truly am. I live on the beach. I love technology. Been doing IT security for off and on for 25 years. SharePoint, you know, from 2003 to 2011, all I did was SharePoint. I did security before that for 15 years, and I've done security after that until now. So most of my background is in the Microsoft server line and then in security. I live there where the red dot is. If you ever get down, say hey, I'd love to take you out by lunch. We're starting to shoot some security and compliance videos, and they're coming right from there. We're going to have some published this week. We'll start talking about security, both from strategic, and we'll have some hands-on demos. So both two different streams of this. We're getting so many questions about how do I, and there's so many items you choose from, right, in the security and compliance portfolio now. Twitter's Curry Ben. If you want to take it out, I usually don't tweet a lot of garbage. You can catch me there. My email, that's the best place. I'll give you my email. It's right there, sorry. ben.curry@summit7systems.com. If you have any questions, I answer every email at some point. So, I think we're all to the age where we know that not securing mobile devices is a bad idea if they connect to our corporate networks, right? Our corporate systems, whether it's cloud, it's servers, it's whatever it might be. And we're also past the days of saying you can't connect to our network with mobile devices, right? That's just, especially if they're under 37, especially if they're under 30, but under 37, they've grown up on mobile devices. They're smart, and they're used to a device doing, I'm 45, right? So they're used to that device doing what a laptop used to have me do at the same age and step of the career. So heavy iPad users, heavy iPhone users. And I am now, probably half of my day is on an iPad. Believe it or not, it's not on my laptop. I can do almost everything I do on an iPad. It's lightweight, it's easy to carry, I go to meetings, I can draw, and I can, all these things. So whatever the device type is pushing mobile security. The other thing doing it is all of the compliance and regulation says remote devices. You get a kick out of this, you can tell they weren't thinking cloud, were they? Because if you're in a SaaS solution in the cloud, what's remote? Bloody everything, right? I mean, everything's remote. So we have to treat all devices as remote connected devices. It's essentially untrusted devices. So keeping that data secure on those devices, I've heard it said, you've heard me say it, not securing the mobile entry point into your cloud is like securing your house and your windows and putting bars on the doors and setting everything and then opening the garage door and leaving on vacation. And that mobile, this is one of the primary entry points for a lot of the workforce. Sales, huge, right? They're coming in, they're always on the road, anybody who travels. So the mobile endpoint in our system audits right now is by far, there's not even a close second, the biggest vulnerability we're seeing. We've been quite easily compromised data, so I think that big deal, I'm glad you're here. Let's talk about it. What's in your email and documents? Usually we start looking at data, people don't actually know what's in it. And a lot of times as we start mining that data, they're surprised to see how much intellectual property and compliant data is actually in their email. As we get this stuff into the cloud, we start running tools like data loss prevention against the email boxes and OneDrive and SharePoint. And we find out they're like, oh wow, there's 4,000 social security numbers in that Excel file. That's probably bad, really bad. So like it scares people rapidly. So if you're just now getting into the cloud or you haven't quite gotten there, take something like a data loss prevention. If you're worried about impacting end users, you can run it in read-only mode. Crank up DLP, run it in read-only mode, and see what kind of data is there. That helps you build that business case to go back and get investment for mobile. You could say, hey, in our Exchange Online, we found all of these documents, but we're not securing the device that's holding them on the endpoint. A lot of times that will get their attention to help. All kinds of stuff. Digital transformation is the mobility. It really is true. I put that in there because it's kind of cool. 52% of workers use 3 devices or more. That's the new baseline. Basically 3 devices. It all works good. Thank you. 3 devices or more. So gone are the days you have your company issued workstation. Now for years we had BYOD, right? Bring your own device, you know, you bring your own phone in. I'm seeing that, we're seeing that tail off rapidly because of security concerns, compliance concerns. People are no longer allowing them to bring their device unless we can load an app on the device, for example. It has to become essentially a corporate managed device, even if it's BYOD, and a lot of users are like, I'm not doing it. So we're seeing a trend back to corporate-owned mobile, at least for big parts of the workforce like HR or sales or certain processes. At our company, we have something, it's more of a choose your own device. We'll support 1 or 2 or 3, and there's your configurations. You pick one of those. There's a little more flexibility, but still, because of all the compliance we're under, because we service DoD contractors, we have to be careful. 90% will have 2 mobile operating support. You have iPhone and Android, and generally we have Android and Samsung. That's kind of the world we're getting to. But we live in a world where we trust Apple and Microsoft when privacy, which is interesting. I don't think I'd have called that one 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you said, we're going to trust Apple and Microsoft. I might have said, but they are. They're the 2 companies that have respected our personal privacy. And now what you've got in the marketplace is you've got Samsung with their Knox, right? So Samsung's taken that Android platform that's not super secure. They've essentially created their own security space called Knox. It's on all Samsung Androids now, most of them. And that's on par with an iPhone in security. In our company, you get Samsung Knox or an iPhone, that's it. That's it, there's no other way. It's so hard to secure devices that aren't one of those 2 things. Not saying you can't do it. You can go third party, buy some Mobile Iron or AirWatch or something, but it's going to be big, thick, expensive, and heavy. And honestly, it's time to move to devices that were built from security from the ground up. 80% of employees admit to using non-approved software. This is a big, big problem. I see IT all the time say, don't do that or you'll get in trouble, right? But we don't give them better solutions to do it. Or we're holding on so tight to the governance on these systems that they have no choice but to go to Gmail. I've been almost pushed into Gmail, my own business. I'm like, I've got to be able to do this. So getting solutions in place, don't think just how can I govern and iron fist all these mobile devices. Think about the usability. Can we create solutions where they want to come to? Can we loosen governance up some so that at least it's in our buckets, our platforms? I would rather have it in my platform and loosely governed than off in Gmail or Dropbox or somewhere else on the internet. So what's EMM? All the time I talk about it. We're going to talk about EMM, MDM, and MAM. This is our agenda, and I'm going to demo all of this today. So you'll see this in everything but selective wipe. EMM is the umbrella. I'm going to talk about 3 today. Enterprise Mobility Management is kind of umbrella. It encompasses a lot of technologies. Mobile device management and mobile application management is our focus area today. But we do have emerging trends in mobile information management and mobile content management both. But for today, we're going to focus on MDM. Mobile device management is managing the device itself. So MDM, mobile device management, is how we manage this container. Not really what's inside of it. We're going to say, hey, you got to have a password. It has to be encrypted. We're going to allow you to use Face ID, or we're not going to allow you to use Face ID. If you hate your users, I guess you could choose that. But all of the things about the device, managing the device. To manage this device, you have to have an app. It's called Portal. There's a Portal app you load. And if you want complete control over a device, you've got to load the Portal app. Don't let Microsoft sell you on the fact that, oh, we can do all the same thing via mobile application management. No, you can't. If you really want to get secure, you got to manage the whole kit and caboodle. There's a place and time for both. I've already talked to somebody I know that's only running MAM. We do it some too, right? It's better than nothing. Mobile application management is about managing the applications on the device. Moreover, it's about managing the applications on the device and what is allowed to transfer between those apps on the device. So we can, with Microsoft Intune, control how apps talk to each other on the device and limit information. So mobile device management, the bucket, app management, stuff inside the bucket. Probably oversimplified that, but could do worse. The typical mobility stack, if you've looked at AirWatch or Mobile Iron, have anybody put in MDM yet of any kind? Except for Intune. What are you guys running? Okay. What are you running? Okay. You're Mass 360? Okay. Very Mass 360. I just did a migration off of that to Intune. The way these apps work, and that's not necessarily something wrong with it, is they create a secure location on the device, like especially at Mass 360, right? But then you're forced to use their experience of the apps and so forth, which is kind of be frustrating. But they have a secure space on the mobile device that you work in. Microsoft's taken the view that you're going to use the apps you already know and love. I'll get to some of this later. And we're going to manage each app individually. Better than that, we're able to manage only your cloud content within each app individually. Let me give you an example. Let's say you have an intern and they work for your company and they're going to college. So they have your Office 365 and they have their university Office 365. Microsoft's Intune is smart enough to know the difference in those two data. So we can issue a selective remote wipe. You'll hear me say that. It means we can go out, selectively wipe pieces. We would only wipe our corporate data from Word history, but not their university data. It's a really strong piece of Microsoft Intune. It used to be called Windows Intune. I'm still trying to adjust. So this allows us to manage those apps individually, and better than that, I'm going to quickly talk about identity management. If you don't know identity management, that's fine. You don't have to. I'm not trying to tell you about it today. I just want to talk about how important it is. We can encrypt devices. We can secure devices. When you pick up that device, we've got to know it's the user we think that user is. So whether it's a thumbprint or Face ID, I think multi-factor is a must. You've heard me, most of you already. I've said multi-factor, multi-factor, multi-factor. It's one of the number one things you can do to protect yourself. No different on a mobile. So however you do your identity management, whether it's cloud-based only, whether it's synchronized with on-prem, or whether you bought it from a third party, just know it works. We need to authenticate that user because that's really at the root of everything we're doing in mobile security. We want to make sure it's an authenticated user that picks up that phone and reads email or looks at the OneDrive history, because imagine how much intellectual property is in the history. So authentication, there's a free MDM in the platform. Just say no, it's junk. It really is junk. I used to say it's better than nothing, but the more I play with it, it's not. It's just junk. I wouldn't use it. If you need a cheap MDM, looked at something like, something else. But if you want to take a look, I put this chart in here. I'm not going to talk the whole thing. When you get back home, you're probably going to have questions about what I get with each version and where do I manage stuff out of which. We talked about this a little bit before the session. And what I've done here is we've broken this up. Actually, I think I stole this from Microsoft. Full disclosure, I did. I stole this from Microsoft. So I didn't do this. Somebody else did. But it shows you what you get with ActiveSync, what you get with the free junk version, what you get with cloud, and then hybrid, right? So what you get in each iteration or each architecture with the product. Most of my customers are running in straight cloud only now. So that third column is EMS E3, the license EMS E3, gets you the third column. So it gets you a cloud only Azure. And if you don't have to run on premises, just say no. It's like a really bad drug with a bad trip. Don't do it, So just say no to on-prem Intune unless you have to. There are reasons you do. Linux and Mac are two of the big reasons. But Mac support's coming on strong in Azure now. Azure Intune, so that is coming. It's getting better. But I would say the big ones, GPO, that's not even true anymore. So that whole third line, I'm looking, they're actually not right. We have BitLocker, virtual desktop, login scripts, all out of cloud now. Linux is the big one. Windows Server and Linux servers. Those are the two big reasons you might need an on-prem. If you're not worried about your servers, you don't need on-prem. You can do it all cloud now. Most of my customers aren't running Intune on servers, by the way. Are you guys going to run Intune on servers? So you don't really care, right? Cloud only way to go. There's two different things. We talk about MDM. We have two components of it. We have what first is called compliance. We create a policy. Policy says you have to have a 4-digit passcode. You have to have an encrypted device. Your password has to change every 3 months. Now, this compliance policy doesn't mean the user has to follow your directions. It just says, if you want to access our cloud, you will have at least this minimum set of controls on your device. Do whatever you want to with your device, but to access us, you're going to have an encrypted device, 4-digit password, 15-minute screen timeouts, right? That kind of stuff. The other half of MDM is configuration profiles. Compliance policy, it's your gatekeeper. Configuration profile, we're pushing configuration to the phone. When the user loads the app, it mandates a forward character. You must do this. It pushes every 15-minute screen timeout. It pushes password expiration every 60 days or whatever, 90 days. Okay, see the difference. And you need both. Oh, by the way, you can shoot yourself in the foot, right? You can create a compliance policy that says you must have a 6-digit password, and you can push a configuration profile the way mandates 4, which will drive your users crazy because they won't really know. So whenever possible, these should match. I say this because when you get in the interface, it can be really, you're like, I know I just saw the same thing on a different screen. Well, you did, because your compliance policies and your configuration profiles have mostly the same items. But one's about configuring the device, one's about a gatekeeper. You know, an interesting thing about it is, when you look on an iPhone or an Android, you'll see a lot of these options I'm going to show you, and they don't show up in the user interface. It's because they're actually in the user interface already. Google and Apple, they've already programmed them. You just don't have access to them until you load something like an Intune or an AirWatch or something on that device. We're talking Intune today. Let's take a look first at device compliance, okay? Device compliance. And we're saying, hey, if you want to enter our environment, you must come in this way. So I'm going to go to Portal Azure Com. If you don't have Portal Azure Com, well, for one, it's going to be really hard to manage Intune. So you're going to have to get access to this one piece. If you don't run your Azure subscription, they can delegate access to this one piece for you. However, they're not going to, how many people here are your domain admin? Couple, 1, 2, right? So the challenge here is we need to be able to see things like Active Directory conditional access because it ties in with our Intune. So they should be able to give you Intune admin, and then we got to work together on the conditional access. When you get into here, this is probably new then for most of you. The best way to do this is run a search. So I'm just going to go Intune. It's going to be right there in the top. So we'll start there. I'll probably just stay there most of this session. So on the left-hand side, you can see kind of at a high level what we've been talking about, device enrollment. I'm not going to talk about that a lot today, a little bit, but mostly around compliance, configuration, and mobile apps. That's where I want to spend a lot of today. Things like enrollment, the documentation is really good on it, and it's really boring to present. No, it is kind of actually, but it is simple enrollment. Follow the instructions, get devices enrolled. I instead want to spend our time thinking here. So let's first take a look at device compliance. So here in this tenant, I've got 27 devices. I have 4 not compliant. So let's just go ahead and take a look at this. This is actually live data, which is fine. And you can see here that 3 of the 4 retire pending. And so what happened is, what happened, I don't know the scenario where this is at, but somebody got rid of a phone or formatted it and changed the name, and that device no longer exists at all without unenrolling it. So when we do that, we basically have to push retire the device, and if it doesn't happen in 30 days, then we can just remove the device completely. Because remember, we're going to have compliance policies that force this on the phone, so that phone can't get back in anyway. We can delete the profile. But if you delete a profile, it works really well and really fast. So if you delete a profile, there is no Control-Z for that. I've done it before accidentally. I'm sorry, not delete a profile, delete a device. I've deleted the wrong device midday. And that user, they've got to uninstall the app, reinstall, and re-enroll. There was a gotcha we saw the other day. Everybody, this is big. I had no idea this was true. Let me show you this. One thing on enrollment. I got a valuable lesson learned. I got hit with. So when you go into Apple enrollment, see where I'm at here? Apple enrollment, blah, blah, blah. You have an MDM push certificate. Here's the way this works. You take an Apple ID. Don't let it be an admin's Apple ID. Create like a service ID for your company. Just create an Apple ID. We have one, and we also use it to like build our MacBooks and things. So it's like the admin on boxes, okay? And then you have to go out and get a certificate, and that certificate is how it uses to connect and push to devices. No big deal, right? So these are most certificates are done annually. If it expires, okay, you'll have to re-enroll all your devices. I think that's a bug. We just found out the hard way. And it wasn't us, a client, right? They called, they're like, it doesn't work. We had to re-enroll devices. So never let this certificate expire, ever, ever, ever. A big exclamation point. I don't know if that's ever going to be changed, but that's the way it works today. That's the only piece of enrollment I think that you just gotta know. So let's go to device compliance. Let's just create a new one. So we're gonna go to policies right here on the left. Uh-oh, it wasn't me. And I'm gonna create a new policy. And we'll call this the Cool Kids in Boston. The first thing we have to do is choose a platform. So what this means is you're going to have a compliance policy for each device type. So if you're running Android, and you're running Apple, and you're running Win 10, you'll have to have 3 different compliance policies because it's per device. We'll choose Mac or iOS. Windows Phone 8.1 doesn't work great, in my opinion. And then Windows 8.1. Let's choose iOS. And here under Configure, we've got several settings. We have stuff like device health. This is one we always check. We're going to say, hey, if it's a jailbroken device, you cannot access our tenant. And I can think of about 100 reasons why that's true, because we have no idea what's going on in the device. If you've been out to like I forget the name of the CDO, what's the name of the store? There's a couple stores for jailbroke. Who knows what those apps are doing? And that'd be the perfect place to get in the corporate network. And on, there's also the same checkbox for Android that blocks rooted devices. Same deal. Now here's a rub we've had run into is if a user jailbreaks a device and it blocks the device, and they go reboot and set it back, it's still marked it's still marked that it was rooted. It will let it in, but it's going to flag forever that at some point in its life it got rooted. So I haven't found a way to clear that. So not a huge deal, I just want you to know it. If you have third-party software, it now supports device threat level. There's apps you can subscribe to on the device that'll secure the device, and we can mandate it's at a certain level before it connects to our corporate network. That's not native to Intune, you have to buy that elsewhere. We have things like device properties, minimum OS version. We generally don't have to set that. Most people want to see this. Require a password on mobile devices. That's a really good idea. So we're going to say simple passwords. Be careful before you require complex passwords. We want users to use it. Right? I would rather give them a 6-digit numeric password. Right? Leave it not configured. Just leave it not configured. As numeric. They can set it to either numeric or alphanumeric. Oh, you know what happened? I always thought, so I set it to numeric, then they can't use alphanumeric. That's what it was. So I usually, we don't care. If you want to use a 6-digit alphanumeric, I say rock on. It's harder to break, actually. I would rather have 6 digits than some complex password they bypass or don't use or don't adopt or find out somehow. You really can't work around this technology. This one's pretty good. It's pretty tough to work around. PIN, 6-digit, 6-character PIN. Yeah, this would be a 6-digit pattern on an Android, right? It would still require 6 digits. I believe those are actually calculated as digits. 6-digit to 4-digit, it's the difference of like 24 hours and 4 weeks in hacking. It's a significant difference in 4 and 6. So 6 is kind of usually our baseline. 4 digits, big enough array, you're a day. We could talk about how many minutes before the password is required. The maximum on actually the default on a maximum on an iPhone is 15 minutes. All right, so usually 15 minutes, it could be as low as you want. Now remember, this is a policy. We're not configuring the device. We're saying to use our cloud, your phone must have these settings. Okay? To use our cloud, your phone must do this. It'll warn them. And you'll say you can't use the last 3 previous passwords. Okay, so that's kind of a high-level compliance policy. Now it's pretty smart too. So if a user meets all your requirements, it goes out to OneDrive and it syncs their stuff from SharePoint online. And then they go back and try to remove the PIN or remove something, it's going to give them a pop-up and it's going to say, this will remove all corporate data from the device, are you sure? So it is hooked in hard. Apple and Samsung have both hooked that. I know other Androids are more challenging, but I know that the Samsung and Apple's, it's written well. You can't get around it. Once you've met compliance and got data on it, they were built from the ground up, Knox and Apple, to do that. It will remove it. Let's take a look at configuration profiles. So we were here in device compliance. We're going to go down to device configuration. Now, you don't have to configure all of these profiles, right? By the way, they have the PowerShell scripts now for this are listed right here, so it's pretty cool. If you're not a PowerShell guru, you can go here and dump them out, edit, and then run them. And even me, I usually just use theirs, or use ones I already have. I'd be careful about using ones off the internet. I've seen some really dodgy Intune PowerShell scripts. And so Microsoft just put them right here. Excuse me. So let's create a new profile here. We'll just create, we'll give it a name. We'll give it a name. And same deal, pick a platform. You'll have to have a configuration profile for each device type. Here I'm just going to choose iOS. And here, though, we get all of these other configurations. Now, yeah, we get the exact same stuff we just saw in policies. We can say you've got to have a 6-digit password, yada, yada. And this mandates it, so it's different. We're actually configuring the device. But no, we do some things here. The number one I want to show you, a couple, is VPN and Wi-Fi. We use this all the time for clients because they have rolling Wi-Fi passwords. So we can actually just push this via policies to mobile devices now. So their mobile always know the SID, the SSID, and the password of all Wi-Fi. Users no longer have to enter it in. We can now push this via profiles. So their devices just stay updated all the time on Wi-Fi. This is actually really cool. This is a really cool thing because it helps keep all your devices. A lot of our clients also, even if they're in Azure, we have things like, instead of using remote gateway services or RDS like we used to, more and more we're now using VPN. And what we can now do is push this VPN profiles to the device. And it looks, have you guys ever played with this? It looks like, let me show you. I run it. It is not happy with me. It ain't happy with me, don't like me. Right, so what happens is the user, see how it just shows up right here on your phone, dot, and we can push that entire profile, and all the user has to know is go settings, hit VPN, and they can use apps. We use it for like all of our project management and our accounting systems, all the mobile apps. The only way to get to them is through an Azure VPN. And the way our users do it, we can push this profile to the device and it looks just like that. Pretty cool, right? So it's not just about security. So the compliance policy is all about security. But the configuration profile is about much more than that. So I just want to see that. So VPN, Wi-Fi settings. So for example, I'll give you choose enterprise, network name, SSID, connection, proxy settings, encryption, the whole 9 yards.